talk to my producer there. He's going to give me the counting in. Just feels like such a long time since I've been on stage. I think I let 3 people speak. Well, that's a record, isn't it? Go, go, go. Hello, everyone. Again. It's been a long time since I've been here. At the end of the session, I was just saying just now, at the end of the session, we're going to have the international rock, paper, scissors competition. We've got a nice little prize for that. And we'll also have a nice little prize for some online folk as well. I haven't decided yet how we're going to pick an online person, but I guess we'll have to figure that out. All right. The goal of this session anyway is just to run quickly through some of the stuff that we've got, some of the stuff you may know we've got, maybe you don't have, maybe you do have. These are ways in which you might want to improve your program. I don't know why you would want to do that, but I've heard one of the sessions today was all about improving your program, so this may give you some pointers to doing that. I thought I'd start by talking a little bit about what is CapeSoft. Because a lot of people know us for making accessories, but that's not actually our real business. It is real business. It's not our main business. We were founded a little over 25 years ago, and we started off as custom software developers. The name of the company contains the clue, as it were. We were called Custom Business Software. And if you've been around a long, long time, we've started selling accessories under the moniker of CapeSoft. And then it turns out we got a little cease and desist letter because it turns out everyone and their friend is called CapeSoft. So we changed to CapeSoft and haven't looked back since then. We did custom business applications, but it's a tough gig because you finish one app and then you've got to start the next one. And any gap between those projects and you're not making an income. We built up a little wake of customers who always want support but never actually want to pay for anything. They always want you to jump, but it's on their terms, on their time scale and whatever. They'll use you for a week in a year and they expect you to be completely available for that week. So we got out of that game and we started building applications, business applications. We're now about 46 people. We've got 3 offices. We are only 4 developers for those 46 people. In and amongst the rest, we've got salespeople, support people, manufacturing. We manufacture our own hardware. So we've got electronic designers. One of those developers, in fact, does not code in Clarin. He spends all his life in C. He writes all the firmware for the electronics, which is all running Linux. So it's kind of nice. In one sense, writing a code is not the end of the discussion. Writing the code is maybe the fun part for us. But actually, until that code is in front of someone and being used, it's kind of useless. And to do that, you kind of need some infrastructure. And we were lucky enough to kind of accumulate people along the way. We acquired one of our distributors about 18 months ago. And we grew from 15 people to 45 people in that acquisition. So that was a bit of a challenge. We spent a lot of time doing business. We are in the business of software. We're not a software business. So we don't get paid to write code. We get paid to provide solutions. And our users don't like our products. For the most part, our goal is for our users not to like our products. Our goal is for users to use our products and completely have no feelings towards them whatsoever. Just as I suspect many of you go to work every morning, you get in your car, you start it up, you go to work, you get there, and not once do you think to yourself, my word, what a magnificent vehicle this is. Okay? At best, you don't think about your car at all. It's simply a tool that you use to get the job done. You get in your car, I get to work, I park it, I get out, I don't think about it all day. The only time I think about my car is when it doesn't start. The only time I think about my car is when I'm driving along the freeway and it loses interest and decides, it doesn't want to be a car anymore. And And software is a lot like that. I know we're in the software game, and we like this. We like the intrinsicness of the software itself. But in fact, the software is the least interesting part of anyone else's day. Our customers don't care about the software. If you ask them whether they like the software or not, they'd be, yeah, we like it, to the degree to which it doesn't cause us pain. All right? And that's the difference between being in the business of software and being in a software business. You understand? And I suspect most of us are in the business of software. So how did we get into accessories? Why make accessories? Well, I am the poster child for the Lazy Programmers Club. I don't like doing work. And so I'll do an extraordinary amount of work to make sure I don't have to do it. I don't know if you've noticed that about lazy people. Anyone who's had kids, and you'll notice how hard they work not to do the thing that they actually have to do. Right? Procrastination, they will do 1,000 other tasks, but not empty the dishwasher, you know, that kind of thing. So we wanted reusable code. My goal has always been to write the code once and reuse it over and over and over again. I'm not interested in writing the same thing twice. It's why rewriting applications really doesn't inspire me at all. People say, oh, we're going to rewrite this thing in .NET, and it's like, you can if you want to, but it's not going to be me. It's not interesting at all. So I don't like to do code again and again. I want it to be reliable. And what we found is the accessory code is by far some of the most reliable code we've got in our application. And that's because it's used by hundreds, if not thousands, of programmers in thousands, if not tens of thousands of programs. And so, except for some real edge cases, and even those edge cases, people report them, we fix them, we build them, and so on. So the accessory code is some of the most reliable code we have, some of the most tested code we have. It's some of the most efficient code we have because obviously, again, many people look at it and say, okay, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, I want it to be faster. Is Jeff here? No, I think he went to the launch. Jeff Robinson spends half his life looking at string theory and sending me suggestions and sending me code updates and things like that, which is fantastic. In fact, there have been many contributors over the years. We are not a place where we say the code has to be written here. I saw a posting on the news group a couple of months ago which referred to the fact that some people, and it was real unclear what the point of the post was, but it kind of alluded to like, oh, well, some accessory developers don't actually write their own code, they just buy it. And I will happily stand up and say that's true for us. I'll happily stand up and say we have not written, even internally, and there's been a fairly large group of programmers along the years that have contributed to the code internally. But externally, we've also got a lot of contributors. Some of them are here at this DevCon this week. Eric Churton wrote some tab tree, and I liked it so much we bought it outright and turned it into tab tree. Andrew Malin wrote the easy resize and split, and we took that over when he and CapeSoft had a dispute, and it needed a new home. Mike Berkeley wrote huge chunks of the original insight graphing. Vin Sorensen, with his ABC free templates, wrote a lot of the code that ends up in self-service. Dave Nichols wrote Memfast right before he retired. Dries, we all know. Dries has contributed a lot towards NetTalk. He did a lot of the Net Web Sockets code. He's done a lot of the OAuth code. There's other bits and pieces. He wrote a large chunk of what is JFiles. So yeah, I mean, you know, guys come to us with decent code, or we make them an offer and we buy it. Jeff Robinson, as I said, has contributed a huge amount to string theory. You can thank him later. Go shake his hand and thank him for his contribution. By the same token, we're always looking for, you know, we're always open to guys contributing code. If you want to do projects or you have projects in mind, then talk to us and we'll just say, you know, are we interested in that sort of thing, not interested in that sort of thing, and so on. We're always open to that. Many, many others have contributed over the years. And I don't feel there's any reason to apologize for that. It's simply the way software should be written. When you buy an accessory, what are you really buying? Well, code is probably the least thing that you're buying. I know this is maybe a little controversial, but I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen a lot of third parties come and go. And a lot of the third parties that have gone along the way have sold code. And it turns out code is okay, it's good. But really what you want to buy are things like documentation, examples, support, commitment, value, and the building blocks that you're going to build the next thing on. And you can't build the next thing on top of something if you feel it's not solid underneath. We've been around a long time. We're not the oldest third-party supplier. I think that Monica goes to the gentleman in the front row. But, you know, I'm less gray than he is, so, you know, that's got to count for something. But certainly there's a core of guys, Mike amongst them, we've been around a long, long time, been doing accessories for over 20 years. So there's an element of confidence that comes with that. I know if I buy something from Mike, he's going to be around for a while. You can be assured that if you buy something from CapeSoft, we're going to be around for a while. How can we improve you? What can we do? And we'll get into the products in just a minute, but this is conceptually, what does it mean to be buying third-party stuff? What does it mean to be buying specifically something from CapeSoft? All right? And we've had this mantra for many years. We use it internally. We try and teach it to our staff. And all of you have certainly seen me say it, and we put it on T-shirts and that sort of thing. And that's to work smarter, not harder. Hard work counts for nothing. I know your school upbringing, they told you if you just work hard in school, you'll get a good job. If you just work hard at your sport, you'll get better results. And in truth, in the real world, hard work counts for nothing at all. Only results count. It doesn't matter how many hours you put into your program if you're not putting in the right hours. Right? There's no A for effort when you're out there trying to sell stuff. And there's certainly no A for effort if you never get out there and sell your stuff. No one is going to come knock on your door and ask you for your software. So work smarter, not harder. What does that mean? It means don't be wasting time doing stuff that's already done. I don't waste time writing code that Dries has already written. I can go to him and buy it. It's cheaper. Quite honestly, it's cheaper. In the same way, don't go out and be writing code that exists. And there's lots of choice. I'm not just talking about myself now. There's lots of choice about third-party stuff. You'll see Andy tomorrow night. There's lots of people out there in the solutions room. Go around and talk to the guys. There's a lot of code that you can buy, and all it costs is money. And I know that sounds strange, but money is a lot cheaper than time. Much, much cheaper. We're all time limited. Money there's plenty of. Okay, you can always poll your clients for more money, but you can't poll them for more time. So for us, that's a big deal. We have a whole range of tools. I counted up the other day, it's over 50, which is insane. But you know how you get to 50? You do it for 20 years, and you do 2.5 a year. That's what happens. You just accumulate them. And why do we write them? We don't write them for you. I'm sorry, but we don't. We write them for ourselves. We write them for our own applications. And that's why we don't tend to write stuff that we don't use. Lots of people write to me with great ideas. Wouldn't this accessory be nice? Wouldn't that accessory be nice? And I write back and say, sure, got no objection. I think it would be great. But I can't use it in my program. This doesn't work with what we're doing. Go find someone who's going to use it in their program, get them to write it. We don't write accessories just randomly. We write accessories because our program needs that to be better. Our program needs this to be better. We wrote the Premiere Print Previewer because the Print Previewer in the box is terrible. All right? If you're still using the Print Previewer that comes with Clarion, I'll give you a no-brainer right now today. You can improve your program like that by putting in a better Print Previewer. If you don't want to use mine, that's fantastic. Use Arnold's or use Lee's. But do not be using the one that's in the box, please. Yeah? Should I ask who's all using the Previewer that still comes in the Clarion box? Should I ask? All right. It's a no-brainer, folks. I mean, what is it? Well, I don't know what it costs. It costs less than a couple $100. It's a no-brainer. You'll get a massive improvement to your program just like that. And the Previewer that's in the box is primitive, right? It hasn't changed since 1997. Anyway, So let me try. I'm not going to talk about every tool because, you have lives to get to and you don't want to get bored. But I've broken them down into a couple of categories, and I want you to think about these categories and think to yourself, could my program be improved if we improved this part of it? And if we wanted to improve this part of it, maybe one of these tools can help you. Of course, we'll be outside at the tables for the next couple of days, so you can come and ask. I'm not going to do a whole demo of each one now. That's insane. We don't have the time for that. But if you want to know more about something, come and ask. If you think to yourself, but that can't work, or that won't work in my application, come and ask. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. I heard a conversation today where someone said, you can't just expect to design your screen with an 8-point font and change it to 9-point and everything just works. Well, here's the thing. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, and I know you can because we've done it. So you may think things are simple, but under the hood they're actually quite complicated. Well, we've done a lot of very complicated. We just present it very simple. So I'm just leaving that out there. There's a whole bunch of visual things that we can do to your application. Any font has been around a long time. It's one of my favorites. I put it in the application, I forget about it. And it allows you to set the font of your application at runtime. And if you think that's not important, well, then you weren't paying attention earlier today. Font is incredibly important. When you buy a car, how many people buy a car based on the gearbox specifications or the differential specifications? Or even, dare I say it, the engine specifications? And how many people go down and buy a car and because they like what it looks like and they like the color? How many people reject a car because, quite honestly, it's bad ugly? Yeah? I couldn't drive that car. It's just ugly. No. I could drive this one or this one, but I eliminate ugly. Ugly is a very important thing because customers judge your product based on what it looks like. If it looks ugly on the outside, how do they judge the inside? If you can't be bothered to make the outside look good, if you can't pay attention to detail on the outside, the bit they can see, what are they inferring about the bit on the inside that they can't see? Right? That's why visual look is not just because, oh, it looks pretty. Programs that look pretty sell better than programs that don't. That's simple. Right? Don't judge a book by its cover. There's a reason why that proverb exists. It's because people do. They do all day long. And you can say that proverb till the cows come home. You'll go buy a car that looks pretty. And you won't buy an ugly car. Yeah? It doesn't matter what the engine spec is. It doesn't matter what the gearbox can do. It doesn't matter what the 0 to 60 time is. If the car looks ugly, you don't want to be seen in it. Any font is part of that solution. It does smart resizing. It does smart awareness of your font settings. In other words, if you've got a different font in a particular place, we respect that. We understand that you've done that on purpose. You're using Courier New for this text box. It's going to keep staying at Courier New. It might change the size, might change the color, but it's going to keep the things that you've differentiated. It's very, very good. Absolutely. So if you've got bold on a field, then it knows you want bold on that field, and it'll keep bold on that field. And then you increase it to 14 point for the window, it will increase it to 14-point bold. It's very clever. Great. There's an example of a window using all your favorite font, MS Sans Serif. There's the exact same thing, and we've changed the font. And I bet half of you can't tell the difference. Let me go back. Let me go forward. But here's the thing. Your users can't articulate why they think your program looks ugly. They can't. But they subliminally, down deep inside, their brain is saying, this does not look like everything else. And to them, that's what makes it look ugly. That's the font of Windows at the moment. That's the font that all the programs are using. So why are you using this one? It looks old. Of course, that's not the only change you're going to make. Any text is part of this thing as well. Any text is a visual UI thing, but it's this idea that you can translate everything. And translation is really important and really, really useful, even if you're shipping an application in English. Because translation isn't just about translating language from one country to another country, actual language. It's also about translating jargon. When we give an application to our clients, they have specific jargon for specific things. We have specific jargon for those same things. Sometimes that jargon matches up, but sometimes it doesn't. We do time and attendance. Some people talk about warnings. Some people talk about exceptions. Being able to translate, and we can globally translate with any text. You can go in and say, warning is now exception. Thank you very much. You can do that globally. Now, certainly, our program is adapting to their jargon, not the other way around. And subliminally, that means that they are more likely to buy our program because it more matches what they're trying to do. Of course, if you are shipping applications in multiple languages, like maybe Spanish or Swiss, German, yeah, then it's fantastic. And you translate at runtime. In other words, you can see a screen, press the hotkey, change everything. You'll see it change live on the screen. You can come get a demo of that. You can translate words globally, like OK. I'm not going to go to every screen and translate OK. I can do that, do it once. This is the same for every screen. Or I can do it locally on specific windows. I can set it so that the user can pick which language they want to use. Some of my users might be in Spanish, some might be in English. It can be picked on user. So here's an example of the translation window. And at this point in the code, I've just replaced OK with accept. And straight away, I can see it there. I haven't even closed the window. I can see it there. So I can make sure it's going to fit inside the button. And you can't, this is a tiny window I took a screenshot on. But if we had a change button on there and a change button on there, and we changed it here, it would actually change in both places, even though that's not the topmost window in the thread. That's just magic. Okay, we won't go into how that all works, but it does. Resize and split I mentioned. We took this over because a lot of people had it, and it needed a new home. It wasn't something that could easily or usefully be abandoned by the community. So we took it over, and actually I've been remarkably impressed by it. Tidied up a few things, fixed a couple bugs, put it into our applications, and I've been using the built-in window resizing forever, and replaced it. Took it out and replaced it, which was a bit of work, but actually was worth the effort. And I slowly replaced it through the applications. It's much, much easier to use because you can set the resizing rules inside the window designer. You can still do it on the extension template, but mostly you can do it in the designer, which actually turns out to be quite a nice thing. It includes the vertical and horizontal split bars, and it's got a split bar that's like this thing. So you can drag that one backwards and forwards, and you can make this one bigger and this one smaller and all that kind of thing. And that actually turns out, again, to be something that's really nice in the interface. Because in a lot of places, I'm starting to notice where I haven't put it, and there's two list boxes, and I want to make, it's not there yet, I have to go add it. And that's the best way that you know a feature is working, is if you miss it when it's not there. That's the best way to know. There's also a visual indicator down here in the bottom corner, which shows you that the window is resizable. And that's also a neat little clue, because not all our windows are resizable. For the most part, don't tend to resize forms. Do tend to resize browsers. But every so often there's a form that is resizable because on the other tabs they're browsers or something like that. So the visual indicator is cool. It also gives people, they know that indicator, and so they can do it. You can change the graphic if you like, but that one works fine. Makeover goes back 20 years. And Makeover is the ultimate expression of laziness, because it was this idea that I didn't want to do all this work on every single window just to create this consistency that's so important when creating an interface. I wanted to let a single class do it and just apply that class to every window. So the window opens, it applies a set of rules. Now, back in the day, back in the late 90s, you might remember the programs. They all had a good bold color thing going on, maybe wood shading, or it was all a bit, now we look back and go, oh, bell-bottom jeans. But we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're on our 8th major iteration of our main application. And we've been through 8 different styles. And the styles today don't look like the styles back then, but we still use all the features. Now, I've picked a style here. So that's a browse window. I actually tried to turn the style off in this particular application, which I was only partially successful in doing. So some like that square box thing, just ignore that. And probably the the list box should have a white background, but so on. But there are a couple of things going on here, one of which is my personal peeve, is that the lines in list boxes are too close together. So now you'll also notice that up at the top here I've got some fields left aligned. Most of these ones are left aligned. Sometimes you end up with center aligned ones and so on and so on. And as you go through your program, these things are inconsistent. So rather than fix it, I apply makeover. This is the current style. It's called white because that's the current style. You notice we don't have gray backgrounds anymore. Everything is very white, very clean, very open. That's just the latest fashion. I didn't invent it, it just is. The list line height is automatic, well, not automatically, it's a setting in the style. Squeezed up a bit, makes it look a bit better. And all of these things are now center justified. The headers are center justified. That's my style. You can have any style you want, and it's done inside a text file, so you can tweak the style, applies to your whole application. Draw headings. Office draw headings, which we use a lot. You'll see all of these headings are draw headings. And in fact, there's a template that will add them to windows at runtime, so you don't actually have to go to each window and drop one on, although you can if you want to put extra stuff up in the heading. But it's also required by Insight and network maps. So draw is another one of our kind of core products. We build stuff on top of it. There's the heading as I showed just now. In this one, I've dropped a control onto the window, I think, as I recall. I don't know. But there's also a global one which will just apply to all your windows in one go. Tab tree, I loved this one. Eric wrote it, and I saw it in a demo, and I just loved it. It's this idea that you can, when you've got a sheet control with way too many tabs, it doesn't really work. There's not a really elegant way to show those tabs along the top. You could either have them stacked 2 or 3 lines deep, which is a very confusing interface, or you can have the little buttons on the right and the left that let you scroll through the tabs, which is, again, not a particularly intuitive interface for end users. Most programs now, outside the Clarion world, use this idea of a list on the left-hand side, and you can work your way up and down the list. And these things match these tabs. In the window designer, this is done as an absolute normal bog standard sheet control with tabs. At runtime, it makes all of that stuff go away, and it creates this list here, and you can scroll up and down and get through the tabs. And what it means is that I can just keep adding tabs here. We'll get a scroll bar. It's a very intuitive interface. One of my favorite things, actually. And in fact, the first time I saw it, I phoned Eric up and I said, so, how many of these do you plan to sell? Because I'll make you an offer. I bought it outright. That was a no-brainer. We not only can make your UI look better, we can make it richer. I've talked about Premiere, which is a print previewer. And this is now a window in your application. A lot of what we do, if we're duplicating stuff that's in the box, there's obviously a preview in the box, it's to bring that procedure up into our application so that it looks like every other procedure in our application, has the headings, has the same font, all those kind of things. And nothing gets me more kind of like, then I'm looking at a program and it looks great, and you press a button and you get some horrible, ugly dialog box that's got MS Sans Serif 8-point font, and it turns out the declaration of that window is deep in the ABC classes somewhere. That's, seriously, am I proud of that? Not really. So this print previewer has much more functionality, but more importantly, it comes up into my app as a procedure. And it's got a neat little trick. It'll either be an MDI procedure or a non-MDI procedure at runtime, depending on what the parent is. So if I call it from an MDI child report procedure, if the report has got MDI child on, then this will be an MDI child, so it fits inside my frame just like every other window in my application. But if I call it from a report that doesn't have MDI child on, then you obviously can't be an MDI child. So then it switches back to non-MDI mode. And yeah, best of both worlds, but figure out how to go and turn that little MDI child thing on for the report window. And we've got all kinds of hooks in here, so you can save as PDF, you can send it out as an email, you can print it. This report obviously is the report in your application, so nothing there. You've got a page count on a page scroller. You can do the layout. You can view multiple pages at the same time. You can select some pages but not other pages to print. All of those kind of good things. We can show you a demo if you're interested. it's a no-brainer. If you are using the print previewer in the box, it's a no-brainer. Send to is one of our most popular things. And interestingly, it's one of our most popular features with end users, with customers. I got into big trouble with a distributor when we first put it into application. Some of you have heard me tell the story, because I didn't think to mention it to him. To us, it was just like, a little thing that went in. And his customer phoned him up out of the blue, ranting and raving about this new feature, how it was the best thing since sliced bread, and why didn't you tell me this had been added? You know, this was magnificent. And the distributor didn't have a clue what he was talking about. And so then the distributor got on the phone to me and gave me a hard time because I hadn't told him all about this. But it did one little thing that this particular customer loved. Because Send to takes a browse and it sends it somewhere. And in his case, he sent it to Excel. So he took this big list of employees, he dropped it into Excel, and he was happy as anything. It didn't stop there. You can take a browse, you can print it, you can send it to any of these file types, you can email it somewhere. If it's a very wide browse and it's going to span multiple pages, it spans multiple pages. It does all kinds of clever things. You can see there's a whole bunch of outputs. You can output to CSV. In normal CSV mode, you can output it to Excel CSV, which is slightly different. You can get it into Excel 3 different ways if you like. Obviously, in your program, you may choose to only offer one of those ways. We've added, with Send to 3, is a really big upgrade. We added totals and subtotals. Now, totals in a Clarion browse tend to live underneath the browse. So in the original, we only send the browse to the printer. And so there was this kind of like, OK, but then we don't get the totals. So now we've included totals. And we only included totals 15 minutes before we said, but we really want subtotals as well. So the template now allows you to say, OK, well, if you send to something somewhere, we want to see these subtotals. Every time a department changes, I want a subtotal line generated, which is actually very, very cool. Because what we're moving towards and really have achieved is that every single browse becomes a report. And browsers, it turns out, are very powerful. People can change the order of the columns. They can change the width of the columns. They can decide which columns to see and not see. Usually, you've offered them some sort of filter, some sort of way of limiting the data in the browse. And once they've got it just the way they want it, they can print it or email it or send it to Excel. If this isn't in your application, again, pretty much a no-brainer. You will get massive, massive brownie points from your users. And I know this because our users froth at the mouth. And it's actually, of course, now not the hardest thing to add. So have you noticed that sometimes the work you put in is not equal to the appreciation you get out? So you can do like a month's worth of work, and everyone's like, meh. And you can do, I remember this in the DOS days. I did 2 features for a client. I did a whole leave calculation. They had an incredibly complicated leave thing that they had to figure out. And I took about 3 weeks getting it just right. And it would tell you exactly how much leave an employee had earned. It was never mind, but it was complicated. And it was, they were like, OK, that's nice. But then I put the birth date of the person on the form. And I kid you not, the birth date. And they flipped like this was the greatest feature since sliced bread. Because it turns out he needs to know the birth date on a regular basis. So I put the birth date on the form and added it to the browse. And he waxed like I changed. I mean, it took 2 minutes. It wasn't fair. Look at this 3-week stuff I've done. I worked really hard on this. Yeah, whatever. Who cares about the leave days? Run screen. It gives the user an interface. Oh, well, that's the wrong line. OK.
It's been wrong for a while.
Ha! All right. Good to know. Thanks. We'll see if any more come up. If any more come up, you have to drink. OK? All right. Well, hopefully there's screenshots. So run screen, again, quite a simple thing. There is a list box formatter in the Clarion box. I tried it, didn't like it. I didn't like it primarily because, ironically, it offers too much power. It allows users to create like any number of different formats, give each format a name, and then when they select which format they want, my users are not that clever. They're just not. Sorry. For my users, they set it up one way, they leave it that way. It's per user, so each user can set up their own way. And technically, you can offer them multiple things. So you could have a button, predefined buttons, which predefine certain layouts. But for the most part, they just want to right-click on the column header. They can hide a column, or they can come here. And here, they've got control over which columns are being displayed, what the order of the columns is, and so on. Originally, in our browsers, what we would do is put a certain amount of data. Let's take the employee browse, or the clockings browse, or whatever. We'd put a certain amount of columns, but we'd leave off the columns we didn't think were that important, because no one wants to see a browse with 80 columns in it. When we added run screen, it turns out the exact reverse is true. We now add columns for everything. Most of them are off by default, with 0 by default. But they're there. Fax numbers, seriously, it's 2017. But every so often, a client comes along and they're really interested in the fax number. So for them, they can turn it on. And they don't use cell numbers, so they turn that off. They customize it to the data that they collect. They customize it to the data they want to see, and then they click send to and send it somewhere. Right? And so we now add lots and lots and lots of columns to our browsers, and we push that freedom onto the customers, and they love it. Absolutely love it. There's another one. Recent lookups actually is 2 features in one. The one is that the recent lookups part I'll show you second. The first part is that we have a lookup control, and it's the smartest lookup control you can put in your program. It's got autocomplete functionality. It's got ability to display description instead of value. In other words, if you've got a list of departments, and let's say it's auto-numbered 1 through 20, it doesn't show you 20 in the lookup, it shows you the department name. They can type the code and get the department name. They can start typing the department name and get something in the drop-down there. They can, if they can't find it with any of that, they can click the little hourglass, magnifying glass, and they go to the normal browse select thing that you've got. And we had a customer who came to us and said, yeah, I've got 30 departments, but I only ever select 3 of them. And one was in the B's, and one was in the K's, and one was in the W's, or something like that. And he spends his life scrolling down this jolly browse to find the exact same thing every time. Why can't we have the common choices float to the top? So that's what it does. Hence the name recent lookups. The things you've selected most recently float to the top. And you can set how many, but mostly it's 5. It's a perfectly normal browse otherwise. They can scroll up and down. They can pick whatever they like. But it means that if they're going through 25 employees and setting something, if they're setting it to the same thing, that thing's nice high on the list, or maybe the same 2 or 3 things. Again, not something I particularly wanted or thought of. This was a suggestion from a client. And again, this is one of those things where they're way more excited than they should be about it. All right, they just they love it. And I don't really get it, although I kind of get it, but not really, you know. Like, how hard is it to type the first 2 letters because there's a locator? But they don't even know really there's a locator. They don't, those kind of things. So this is another very, very popular one. It takes a little bit more effort to roll this one out because you start pulling out those lookup fields you've got and dropping this one in. So it's something that you actually have to do on a field-by-field basis where you've got lookup buttons. But it really is very nice. What about better information? I said earlier that, you know, our programs today in many cases are exactly the same as the programs we wrote 20 years ago. They're just more of it. There's more browsers and more forms, but it's still just a browse form interface. Well, there's so many other ways to present data. There's so many other ways to give data back to the customer that's much, much, much more informative than a list. A list is one of the least useful ways of looking at data. And these 3 tools together help you do that. So we've got iDash. iDash is the newest one, and it's a dashboard. And it's quite a fancy little dashboard because you can write your own little widgets to go on it. The widgets support drill-down capability. So if you're looking at the number of employees who are absent today, you can click on that and go to a browser that shows you the list of employees. We've got customers at the management level love it because they set up the dashboard with all the metrics that they want to see, and then that's the thing that they look at. So here's one, for example, and you'll see that there's a summary tab here at the top. I've got a pointer here, I think. There we go. There's a summary tab there at the top. What they've done is they've gone through all of the widgets in this program. And in this particular program, there's a lot, which is why I chose it. And you can right-click on a widget, and you can move it to the summary tab. So when they come in, they actually see the top 10 or 15 or whatever it is, things that they want to see that matter to them. We've then broken down all the other sections. So we've got quotes and jobs, and I mean, this thing goes down forever. You can have text things. You can have graphs. You can have gauges. Draw gives you the gauges. Insight gives you the graphs. You can have these little text things. You can have, whoa, back up. You can have them in different sizes. You can resize this thing in the window. You could drag things around so they can move them to the layout is exactly the way they want to see it. You can have small graphs, big graphs, the whole bit. It's very, very powerful. And again, it's something that the customers really, really like because it's a real way, tangible way to get data out. We tend to start with like a small dashboard, which sparks the idea. And then they say, OK, I want to see this number. I want to keep a track of that thing. And as customers ask for stuff, we just add widgets. And as you can see, you can turn the widgets off. So if you're not interested in them, you just turn them off. We tend to have 2 or 3 per tab on by default, and then the rest off by default. And then the users can go through and say, actually, I do care about this number. Actually, I do care about that number. It's a magnificent way to get stuff back. And of course, dashboards are very in vogue at the moment. Everything is like, ooh, what's your dashboard look like? Graphs, lots and lots and lots of graphs. Insight Graphing is one of our older tools, actually. We released it the first time, ETC 2000, 17 years ago. It's now Insight Graphing 2. It requires draw. It's all source code now. We got rid of the DLL. It was actually the very last DLL we created was for Insight. After that, we didn't make any more DLLs. But we spent the last few years slowly eroding. Why do I point at the screen when I go backwards? There's the thing. Slowly eroding the DLLs. So there's no more DLL on Office Inside. There's no more DLL on Insight. There's no more DLL on WinEvent. And we will continue that process of removing DLLs. The reason for that is in the long run, you get better code security. Okay, you're not as dependent on us. If we go away, you've got all the source code you need. So that's a good business principle. It's the principle we abide by, so it's a principle we try and push onto you as well. I know some folk always had source code, always, but we were young and foolish and didn't know any better. So we're trying to undo that. But it is a process to do that. It's not something that takes 5 minutes to do. It does take a bit of effort and time and so on. Graphs, yeah, pretty graphs. You can make graphs through your whole program. I don't know if I need to sell you on the concept of what a graph means to an end user. I should be careful where I go with that. But a picture is much more informative, and it's much, much faster for a person to absorb than a page of text or a list or something like that. Hot date's another older one. We do calendars, we do planners. In this, we use it a lot because a lot of our stuff revolves around planning and rostering and leave planning and leave analysis and all of those kind of good things. So here's a planner, for example. We've got a bunch of stuff on the right here. In fact, there's 2 different tables involved here and some static stuff, like public holiday static. And it brings that data and shows it all onto a planner. We still give the person a list. You can see up in the top left corner there. There's a list thing. We still offer it as a list. And the reason we do that is so that they can send it somewhere. These things you can print. You can zoom in and zoom out. You can do all kinds of things. There's a calendar. There's a story to tell about this because I was writing this, and Rob was working at one of our distributors at the time. And I said, I built this calendar thing, and I was thinking about putting it into our time and attendance application. So I sent a mail to Rob, and I said, can you send me a data set, just a real-life data set? Because I'm trying to test this new feature, and I need some real-life data to test it on. And he sent me a data set from a particular client. He didn't know what I was talking about, but he just sent me a data set. And I randomly picked someone out of that client, and I went to their sick leave over here. It was every 6th Wednesday, and I didn't even see it. But it was like, when you look at it, you kind of see straight away. The person took every 6th Wednesday off as a sick day, which you can't see on a list, but on a calendar, it just like beats you over the head. So I faxed it to Robert in glorious black and white, and I said to him, what do you think about adding this feature into the system? And I didn't get much of a reply. I was expecting more, but there was a bit of a delay. And then I got an email back which said, could you please print this for the following people? Because what he'd done is he sent the fax to the jolly customer. And they said, that's interesting. Here are some other names of people we would be interested in. So he sends it back to me. He'd like to see this thing. So he's already showing the customer the feature. We haven't even built it in and shipped it yet. So it was a good story. But again, that kind of thing tells you, I think maybe we're onto something. And there were a lot of, Mondays and Fridays, always sick. That's why we show public holidays, always sick on a boundary of a public holiday. You can see something straight away. They leap out at you, which are not obvious when you're looking at a list. And it was one of the most popular features for a long time. So again, you don't have to go mad with calendars, but when there is information that's date-related, on a calendar can be good. I saw a calendar not so long ago which showed sales, monthly sales. So like sales for every day of every month. And it was really interesting to see, and they color-coded it based on a kind of scale. And you could see what part of the year they did better sales in. You could see what part of a week they did better sales in, which months were better months, and that kind of thing. And they're very, very useful trends that come from that. We offer you tools to write better code. Does anyone in the room not have string theory? Okay. Just spend $67 or whatever it is this week and buy it. I promise you, if you write code, there were two hands out of this room. Firstly, we build everything on top of string theory now because I'm lazy and because it's got something like 200 methods, and it simply does absolutely everything you'd ever want a string to do. I routinely rip out tens of lines of code and replace it with 1 or 2 lines of string theory. I routinely rip out all of those places where you're trying to find the last slash in a string, or you're trying to do any one of a number of different things. Base64 encoding, converting it to Unicode, converting it back from Unicode, saving it to disk, loading it from disk. Left, right, in-string, we've got powerful in-string function. It's highly optimized in many places. It's the bottom core of, I think, about 15 of our different products now. We use it in, and I use it absolutely every single day. You saw Dries use it earlier. It's just once you've got it in your tool chest, get the hang of using it. It's everything you wanted a string to ever be. There's no size limit. There's no spaces on the end. You don't have to clip it. All those kind of good things. It's quite honestly the most useful thing we make. And it's hand-code friendly, very hand-code friendly because it's a class. And the best part, Carl, is you can look at the code and then you can send me things saying, oh, I think this should be word aligned or D-word aligned, and that thing should have a comma auto and stuff like that. Like I say, Jeff Robinson spends half his life sending me little optimizations, and he refactors this and he refactors that. NetTalk's built on top of it, all over the place. It's a no-brainer, seriously. WinEvent is one of the earliest ones we had. I think it was number 2. If I'm not mistaken, it's number 2. And essentially, it's a wrapper around functions. It's that collection, this toolbox of functions, which doesn't belong somewhere else. We throw it in here. It ships as source code now. It wraps a lot of Windows API functions. A lot of people ask questions, how do I do this? How do I do that? And a lot of answers end up being, I think there's a WinEvent function for that. I think there's a WinEvent function for that. You'll see it on the chat groups and the news groups and so on. And usually, I send them a little link to the documentation. It's just that catch-all library of really useful stuff. It does RS-232 comms. It does subclassing, which is why we build on top of it. We saw the maps. Did most of us see the maps on Monday, where we do the mouse wheel in and out? WinEvent offers that functionality, in the sense that it offers the subclassing of the mouse wheel event, and so we can get that event, and so we can do something with it. It's all source code. WinEvent 5 is all source code, which is nice, because so you can actually see what we're doing. And if you find your own API, Windows API that you need to investigate, well, there's a lot of examples in this one, how to prototype APIs, how to call them, all that kind of thing. We can make your program a better neighbor. By neighbor, what I mean is that your program plays better with all the other programs that your customer has. The two formats we use, that pretty much everyone uses now for importing and exporting, is XML and JSON. You're going to do web services, you're going to do XML and JSON. You're going to do a whole bunch of network stuff, you're going to use XML and JSON. You're going to build your own API server, you're going to use XML and JSON. Why? Because these are the formats things use to interchange data. CSV, so 1980s. Okay? You can, by the way, string theory makes magnificent CSV stuff. But JFiles and Xfiles, you'll find sooner or later they're going to be useful. JFiles reads and writes JSON. It's as simple as that. Again, very handcode friendly. But lots and lots and lots of things are like, just take this JSON structure, just bring it in, take it out. Usually within 2 or 3 lines. You can bring JSON into a queue, into a table, into a group. You can take a group and send it out to JSON. You can take a view and send it out to JSON. You can create very, very complex documents, multi-part documents, nested documents. It's very, very powerful when you need it to be powerful, but it's very simple when you need it to be simple. And it's pretty darn fast. Xfiles is the older one. It reads and writes XML, and it is fast. It was built for performance. There was only one directive building this thing. In the early days, it was built and architected and designed absolutely for raw performance. The XML that's built into the Clarion box can take 30 minutes to import a large XML table, a large XML file. This thing will do it in about 1.5 seconds. That's the difference. It is quick, properly quick. Little bit harder to use sometimes to get the hang of, but it's really just about structures because it maps XML straight into Clarion structures. So 90% of the work is get your structures right, and you get the right XML out, or you get the right XML in. Again, 1 or 2 lines of code if we ignore the fact that you actually have to write the structure. But it is quick. That's why we use it. Okay, let's list every feature that Network has got. And that shouldn't take too long. I know you're all dying to know. There's a few thousand of those, so I hope you can settle in and relax. No, let's just talk about the 3 different levels, because this is sometimes confusing to people. There are 3 different levels of NetTalk. They are each supersets of the other. In other words, NetTalk Desktop is at the bottom. NetTalk Server is in the middle, which includes desktop. NetTalk Apps is at the top, which includes server, which includes desktop, right? So it's a progression. Think Professional Edition, Enterprise Edition. Okay, same kind of idea. It's progression. NetTalk Desktop is designed for desktop programs, ABC and legacy. Lets you do email and LDAP and maps and WebSocket client and web client and net refresh and net auto, and I could go on and on and on and on, FTP. But if you're primarily building ABC or legacy applications, the NetTalk Desktop is probably the thing you're looking for. Okay? If you go to NetTalk Server, we're now building web service, which is a thing you may have noticed. It's now the 10th year anniversary of the web server code. 10 years of features, 10 years of improvements, 10 years of documentation, 10 years of webinars, training, books. That book we did in the training the last couple of days, 400 pages in there, 350 something of them on NetTalk Server, on building a web server. One of the things the web server can let you build is what's called an API server. And it turns out actually building an API server much less complicated than building a generic human-based web server because of the way in which things interact. API server, if you have never written anything on the web before, nothing, not a web server in sight, you can build an API server in something like 2 to 3 days. And I know that because people have. People have written to me and said, I need you to come and build this thing, come do some consulting. And I said, you know what? Take a week, give it a go. You'll find you actually can pull it off. It's not rocket science. API servers are much, much closer to what you understand programming to be. You don't have to know about all the paradigm changes to the web and stuff like that. So it goes really, really quickly. And the wizard generates a whole bunch of the work for you. So you get up and running. And that's all in the book. If you want to do something new, this year, if you want to do something new on one of your days, generate an API server to your program. What does that mean? It means you allow other programs to access your database through this control that you put in place. So you decide what they can do, you decide what they can read, what they can write. And you'd be amazed how many systems you can suddenly interact with, or more likely interact with you, and how powerful that is. It's a really, really powerful thing. Plus, you can sit in a meeting, and people will start talking about data interaction between the services, and you're sitting there, and their techie's sitting there, and you say, yeah, we've got a web services API. You can read and write. I can send you the specifications. And he nods and says, cool, that's great, fantastic. Or you might say, do you want to do XML or JSON? And you say, we do both, whatever you want. It's no big deal. You can generate these things up very, very, very fast. We're talking minutes and hours. This is back to like the good old Clarion days where you just churned out stuff as fast as you could type. It's very, very quick. The web servers, there is a learning curve to web servers. Okay? Because with a NetTalk web server, people say to me, what's the difference between H5 and NetTalk? And the difference is one of perspective. So they both have a place, and they don't really do the same thing. An H5 server takes an existing desktop application and takes it to the web. That's the upside. The downside is scalability. Right? You can't have that many users. Maybe 20 users a server, maybe a few more. Maybe you load balance out the servers, but you're talking a small number of users. The NetTalk web server is architected to be massively scalable, but we can't take your existing application. We can take your existing reports, but your browsers and forms you're going to do again. The good news is, for reasons I explained in the training, it takes about 1/10 of the time to do a NetTalk browse than it does to do an ABC browse, because there's no visual designer. And I know that freaks everyone out, but that's why it goes so fast. So you actually can generate browsers and forms very quickly. Unfortunately, the templates are incredibly rich. There's so much power, and that can be a little daunting when you first see them. There's a lot of stuff to learn. There's a lot of, this is a very scary template. But once you get over that little learning curve hump, and that takes a couple of weeks to a month, there and thereabouts, to get kind of going. Once you get over that, very powerful, very fast. Much, much faster than building ABC. And much richer, much more functionality. That's NetTalk Server. NetTalk Apps is where we start talking about disconnected data. Disconnected desktop apps, disconnected web apps, disconnected mobile apps, where these apps are disconnected from the server but still function, using local storage and so on. Okay, so that's kind of like the progression that you get to, but you kind of go from desktop stuff to web server stuff to app stuff. We can offer you better karma. So what's happened over the last few years is we've had these little snippets of usefulness. And we would go, we typically release these things as free templates. I mean, they're not very big. They do one little task. It's something neat. And it came up that, if it was free, or it was $10, or it was $20, it's not really important. I mean, if the thing adds absolutely any value to your program whatsoever, you can afford $20 for it. Yeah? I mean, what's $20? That's a couple of cups of coffee. And so, if we charge you $20 for it, and then we put that into our charity pot, then, hey, why not? And it turns out that's a really nice model, because we are involved in a number of charities. And in fact, we give a lot of stuff that's not involved in this, but it was a nice experiment to say, well, here's a little thing. Instead of going down to the school and participating in Fun Day or whatever it was and doing all the work that parents have to do when their kids are in school, what happens if I spend a morning and I create a little thing and I put it online and I charge $10? I can collect a whole lot more than I can selling bacon and egg rolls, right? It turns out it doesn't get you out of selling bacon and egg rolls, but that's that was an unfortunate thing that I didn't foresee. However, this works really well. And so these three are what we call charityware. And that's why these three are not on special. Because $18, $20, seriously, you need, So ABC Defaults does two little things, which are really, really nice. The one is that for all SQL programs, for all SQL tables in your program, if you're running ABC, it prevents the open statement from calling create if the open fails. Okay, the standard current behavior has always been that if you open a table and you get a file not found error, it'll run the create statement. Okay, and in TopSpeed, yes, we like that. In SQL, you really, really don't want to do that. Not least because you can sometimes get a file not found because of a connection error. And then it figures out the connection, and then your create arrives, and it wipes out the table that's there, drops the table, all the data. So in SQL programs, that behavior in the class, the ABC class, is destructive. And there's a switch for it. And the switch is off by default, which is like, okay. So now I must remember to go and turn the switch on. And I must remember, and that's not a good thing to do. So there's a tiny, tiny little template. It's about ye long. And it just makes sure you just put it in as a global extension. And you will not get a SQL table dropped because it inadvertently ran create. You can still run create if you want to. You can type create statement, but it won't happen on an open. I tell you what, $10. It's a no-brainer. Really is. The other thing it does is it kills an assert. There's an assert in AB file which says, you called close on the file. You didn't call AB close. And you say, yes, but I didn't call AB open. I called open. No, but you should have called AB open. Well, I don't want all the functionality that comes with AB open in this particular case. I just want to open it, and I want to manage it myself, and then I will call close like a good citizen. By the way, this is what FM3 does, right? And there's a stupid assert in the AB file that pops up and says, you haven't done this. And I complained bitterly for ages, and it's there for people who are converting from legacy to ABC. Like, that's a thing, all right? That's something that happened 10, 15 years ago. I don't know when the last someone converted from legacy to ABC, but I'm guessing it's well uncommon, okay? Maybe every now and then. But given the whole global Clarion programmer space, it's really not something we need to over-concern ourselves with. So they helpfully added a little switch in the class, which you can set one by one in hand code per table that suppresses this assert. And I'm ashamed to say, a fairly poor reaction on the news groups to some of comments that were posted there about why they did it like this. And eventually just climbed off my hobby horse, wrote the little template, put it in there, and we released it as charityware. And there's a bunch of kids going to school now that thank them for doing it the way they did it. So there you go. That's what ABC Defaults does. $10. Solves two tiny little irritating problems that really just corrects the defaults that the class should have done in the first place. Pass paste is very interesting, given the keynote this morning. It allows you to paste a password into a password field. Cunningly, we allow you to do it without displaying the password to everyone, which I think is an improvement. And we also clear the clipboard after the password is pasted, which is a good security feature. A lot of people, the reason why you can't paste a password is because at some point in time it was considered a security issue. Well, hang on, if you're running malware on your machine and you copy your password into your clipboard, the malware can see your clipboard. There's only one flaw with this solution, is it doesn't stop you copying the password into your clipboard, it stops you copying it out. So once you've copied the password into the clipboard, the malware can see it. So preventing you from pasting it into the entry field doesn't solve the problem. Doesn't add any security. Every program known to man allows you to paste into the password field. By the way, the browsers didn't used to let you, and they've since switched back. What's a better security thing is to say, yes, let the guy paste it, and then clear the jolly clipboard so it's not left lying around in the clipboard. You don't want to leave it in the clipboard because someone might come along and sit down at your thing and just paste into Notepad or whatever, and there's a password. So that's good. So the pass paste, again, little piece of charity where John actually complained to Diego when it first came out. We wrote most of this in a Clarion Live webinar because John spoke to Diego and said, I want to be able to paste into a password field. And Diego said, no, you can't do that. and John was upset. So we spent the Clarion Live that Wednesday writing the code for it. And it turns out really not that hard, and a bunch of kids are going to school because it turns out it's impossible to do. Those two, everyone can use. Again, tiny, tiny little things. We don't make any money off them, but hey, good karma. FastMem, Dave Nichols wrote. He released it under an open source license right before he retired. We asked if we could package it up, put a template around it. He'd just written some code. So we did some templating, some documentation, an example or two, and so on. The use case for this actually is quite narrow. I would say you want to use FastMem if you're building a web server API server. Okay? If you're not doing that, really the impact is minimal to non-existent. What it does is it replaces the Clarion Runtime Library memory allocator. The Clarion Runtime Library memory allocator is not particularly good at allocating memory to objects when a thread starts if you're in a highly multi-threaded environment. Okay, so it's that very specific thing. And in that case, this FastMem is about 100 times faster to allocate the memory. It actually does matter. It's significant. The rest of the time, it's marginally quicker, but nothing like 100 times. So if you're building web servers and you're building API web servers, I would spend the money, I would put it in. If you want, you can download the open source. It is around somewhere. I don't know the link, but I'm sure if you Google, you'll find it. And you're welcome to implement the code yourself as well. That'll work too. So a little bit of karma there. Good news is, there is special pricing. Did we bring order forms in? No? You've got some there? Rob's got some order forms. Make sure you grab them on the way out. Yes. They will expire. They will expire. They will spontaneously combust. Roughly speaking, everything's 20% off. If you're online, you can also get effective use of the special through the end of the week, kind of the weekend, maybe before we get home, that kind of thing. You can order at our table here. If you're online, you can order on Clarion Shop. If you order on Clarion Shop, use the comment CLDC, CIDC, CLDC, CIDC, CIDC. All right, CIDC, CLDC. It actually won't matter because a human will read it. Okay? You can put DevCon, you can put something there, but put a comment in, not a special price code. Just put a comment in saying CIDC 2017 or something like that. And Suze will reprice it. I haven't posted the prices online, but just figure roughly 20% off. It's there and thereabouts, except for the charity wear stuff. I haven't taken. The kids want to go to school, so you don't get any savings there. If you are here and you order at our table, of course you get the stylish 2017 T-shirt, or golf shirt, whatever you want to call it. I know many of you are making a collection. And I'd just like to say, this one's probably not coming back, so this is your one and only opportunity to get it. I know Merle's having a collection. He's got various sizes. And Merle's got one of every size over the last 20 years.
It's a progression.
It's a progression. That's right. So, as he's well mentioned. So, and of course, there's some the reason for the Smartie boxes. I don't know. Some of you may not have heard on Monday, but so these are Smarties, and everyone outside the US knows what these are. You know what Smarties are? You get Smarties in Denmark? No? Okay, most people outside the US know what Smarties are. Our goal is for you to be Smartie. Okay, you'll notice the solutions room is for Smarties. Okay, for people who want to work smarter, not harder. Okay, so just a little reminder, and hey, it's something nice to have. I'll give you a tip. You want to be down here at the beginning of the first session tomorrow. That's all I'll say. You might want to be here. Don't get your hopes up. It's not, all right? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do the international rock, paper, scissors competition. And I do have a nice little prize for the winner. So listen up, because I know you're the cream of the crop. I know you follow instructions really, really well. All right, this is how it's going to work. when I say go, not yet, when I say go, you're all going to stand up. You're going to find a partner. Probably the easiest, the person next to you, the person behind you, or something like that. All right? You're going to play rock, paper, scissors. I lobbied to make it rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, but apparently that's too complicated. So, I apparently need to tell you how to play, because we had a big fight last time. Because some people go 1, 2, 3 something, and some people go 1, 2 something, and hence some confusion. So which one shall we go with? We'll go with the 3? 3. Okay. So what you're going to do, 1, 2, 3, paper, rock, scissors. Okay? Do we all know how to play rock, paper, scissors? Okay. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to do one round. You only get one game, right? One round. The loser at the end of the round is going to sit down. All the winners will stay standing. You will then pair up one winner to another winner, and we'll do another round. When we get down to about the last 16, people will come up the front and we'll do it here. Okay? Everyone with me? It's a nice little prize on the line. Okay? And this is international, folks. This is the World Championship. Bragging rights. Bragging rights. I was trying to remember who won it 6 years ago. Was it Mike? I thought it was. Yeah. You won the inaugural one. I thought it was you. All right. Yes, Arbor won an iPad that year. Okay. Sorry, Mike won an iPad. Arbor won a Surface Pro 2. Let me give you a clue. We're not doing tablets. Okay. We're not doing hardware, but it's a nice little prize. Just a little prize, a little something to take away. Okay. So, up on your feet. Find yourself a partner, and you know what? John, Arnold, Mary, you can all play. There's no need not to. Okay. Wait. Okay. No, stand up. We haven't played yet. Oh, my word. Shh. Okay. We're all going to do it together, so just calm down. You need to be able to hear me. All right. First things first. Does everyone have a partner? If you don't have a partner, put your hand up. Tommy, are you playing? Okay. Come on. Rock, paper, scissors. Come on. All right. Everyone got a partner. Come on. Anyone not got a partner? Okay. I'm going to count it out. Are we ready? Are we ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Now, hang on. If you drew, just hang on. Okay. If you drew, just hang on. If you drew, just hang on. If you lost, sit down. If you tied, we're going to do it again. Just hang on, just wait. We're going to do the ties. Okay, we've got a few ties. Okay. If you tied, here we go again. 1. Whoa. You don't have a partner? He lost? Now, if you won, no, if you won, just stay where you are. We're not playing the second round yet. We're just doing the ties from the first round. Okay, we're just doing the ties from the first round. We're not, don't worry. If you won clear. You could stand there and laugh and giggle or whatever. Right, are you ready? For the guys who tied, we're just looking at you three. Is that right? At the front? Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, if you lost it down, you tied again. Anyone else tie again? Okay, we're going to do the ties. You tied again? Did you tie? No? All right, here we go again. If you tied only, 1, 2, 3, go. All right, so everyone who's now out, sit down. So we only got winners standing up. Okay, because we now need to pair up again. So pair up with someone who's still standing. We need one more partner up front here. Anyone who hasn't got someone? All right, does everyone have a partner? All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, do we have any ties? We've got a couple of ties. Okay, just the ties now. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay? All right. Everyone who's still in, please come to the front. Lisa, you faded very early this year. I lobbied for it, but you have no idea, Jim, if it's just way too complicated. Lizard Spock, eh? Can you imagine the chaos? Maybe we should do that with the round of 4. All right. Okay, all the winners of the frontier, so pair up, pair up, pair up. There we go, it's perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just a sec, Rob's going to take a picture of the round of 10. Arno, everyone who played is a winner. Everybody's played. Everyone got a box of Smarties. All right.
Everyone's a winner.
Okay, are we all ready? All right. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, losers can go away. Losers. You tied? We've got a tie here and a tie here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, what are we down to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the perfect number.
I just want to note Albra is still in front of you.
Abra's still there, unchallenged, undefeated. Right. I need one person to come and act as a Jeff, can you come and just play as a surrogate?
Hello, my friend.
I know it's a game of skill. It's a game of skill. I think we've proved that it's a game of skill. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, there we go. Losers can sit down. Tie? Oh, 2 ties. Arbor doesn't tie. Arbor crushes them. All right. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, down to 3. Jeff, can you join us again as a surrogate? Maybe come this side. Oh, yes, come to Mike. Yeah. All right, we're down to the final 3. Okay, are we ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Are you tied? Yeah, you'll stay here, so we'll do it again.
Were you tied?
No, you tie. Oh, well, I know you're right. Okay, okay. So now we got 2. That's great. Okay, so now what we have are 2 previous champions. Okay. So anyone who doubts this is a game of skill, okay, should maybe be brushing up for next time. All right, now this is the Battle of the Titans. This is the George Foreman, Muhammad Ali. I won't say which is which. This is the rumble in the Orlando jungle. All right, are we ready? Are we ready? Are you psyched? Are you loose? Are you loose? Hey? You got what it takes. Have you got what it takes? 1, 2. Whoa. So long as it comes out. 1, 2, 3, and it comes out. You can bounce your hands, you can do handstands, he's just putting you off. It's in mind games. It's mind games. Okay, are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Oh. See, they've been studying past performance. Now, what's going to happen? Stay with the paper. Go to rock. Go to scissors. Go to scissors. If he's going to stay with the paper, go to scissors. Maybe he's going to go to rock. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh. So now they've both been on paper twice. Does someone go to scissors? That's the question. And if you think the other guy's going to scissors, do you go to rock? 1, 2, 3, go. No. It's the first one to crack a strategy here. 1. It's too complicated. This isn't Vegas. 1, 2, 3, go. It's been up for grabs. I keep telling you to go to scissors.
Are you guys sharing a room?
1, 2, 3, go. Oh! Well done. Come in the photo here. Get a photo. Winners. All right. So we got a little prize. It's a little Amazon gift voucher for $250. So you can get something you want, as opposed to, we looked around but we couldn't find something that we think, everyone would want. So we thought, do a little gift voucher. There you go. Congratulations. Okay, so what we'll do tomorrow, we'll do the online folks. Because I'm not sure what we're going to do for the online folks. We're going to have to do something, but we'll do for them. All right? Thanks, everyone, for coming. Have a good evening. See you again tomorrow morning.